Can you tell Ivan, tell Ivan that everybody we are doing active live. Hi. Satria, Hotian, John. I'm the one to first WhatsApp you.
Oh.
Yeah, get your photo phone. Remember? Yeah. Yeah, get the seat. Yeah, because already live. Okay. You see in the big front also, can. We have photographer
Hi
already.
everyone. We'll probably start the event in about 5 minutes time. So, kind of settle down, get your drinks ready. They're not well served to you, but just to let you know, just kind of settle down and we'll start in about 4 minutes now. Alright?
Live, John, sorry. Live.
Also, just a quick heads up, we are recording this live on our Facebook page. So if you have any friends or family members who cannot attend today, please, direct them to our Sunway University Press Facebook profile and just, watch it there, catch it there. Grammar doesn't function on the weekend. Right, before we start, may I get the guest panelists for today's forum to kind of take their seat on stage? That includes you too, Paul. I think Paul's in the seat here. Right. Is everyone seated? Not really lah, but lah. Okay, cool. Right, ladies and gentlemen, fellow authors, families and friends today, welcome. Welcome to the launch of Sunway University Press's first ever fiction release called The Pathbreakers and Other Stories. My name is Ivan, the editor at Sunway University Press, and I will be your MC for today, so hopefully I don't screw things up. First and foremost, I would like to extend my sincerest gratitude to everyone here in the crowd today for being able to join us here at Elite Spectrum, the Star Hill, on this very special day. Do you know why you and I are here? Well, last year, Sunway University Press organized the Blue White Dot short story writing competition in hopes of aligning creativity with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the UN SDGs. Ultimately, 20 stories emerged victorious and are compiled here in this book today. And we are putting the laurels on our winners. Imagine 20. Have you guys watched the new Hunger Games? We'll also be having a forum in the spirit of this celebration today. Now, this book has taken us months. And when I say months, I actually mean it because it's even italicized in my script. There were the weeks of submissions, rounds of judging, and days of editing, but we are finally here today with the book. But before we get into the launch, allow me to share very quickly how today's event will play out. So we will begin with a casual chat led by Prof. Wilkinson, followed by a celebratory prize-giving ceremony to our dear winners of the Blue White Dot short story writing competition, culminating in the official launch of the Pathbreakers and Other Stories. Shall we begin with our first act of the day? Yes. Titled Beyond Words, the Role of Creative Writing in Advancing Global Goals. This chat will explore the dynamics between creative writing and the UN SDGs, while also engaging the various authors within the scene. With that said, let me introduce the four lovely people we have on stage today. Our moderator, Prof. Wilkinson, Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia, Distinguished Professor at Sunway University and Chair of the Sunway University Press Editorial Board. Our two entry-winning authors, Paul Gana Selvam and Anita Sundararaj. And finally, our guest panelist, author and cultural activist, Lee Soo Kim. Now, allow me to pass the stage to Prof. Wilkinson to begin our forum. Prof. Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Ivan, for that introduction. Welcome everyone to this launch of the Pathbreakers and Other Stories, which is the compilation of the winning stories from the Blue Dot short story competition. I presume you all know what the blue dot means, the blue white dot, or maybe not, I'm not sure, but it actually refers to the Earth as it appears from way out in space. So the competition is called the Blue White Dot Story Competition. It was linked to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But the blue white dot really is how Earth appears from deep space. Because you look at the Earth from space, what you see is the blue oceans, you see the white clouds. The land is really not very distinct, and mostly covered by clouds anyway. So if you look at the Earth from a long way away, what you see is that kind of blue-white planet. And indeed, the idea of the blue-white dot came from a photograph taken by the American Voyager 1 spacecraft that went out through to explore the outer planets of the solar system. And eventually, in about 1990, I think it was, it passed Neptune, leaving the solar system. It turned around and took a photograph looking backwards towards where it had come from. And what was in the photograph, but it was magnified many times, was this tiny little blue-white dot in the distance, many hundreds of millions of miles away. And that was our planet, our home, where we are now. And that was really what gave rise to the concept of the Earth being this blue-white dot sitting there in space. Of course, it's our fragile planet, which connects back to the whole theme of sustainability. So blue-white dot is this planet that we're on. And that was a kind of the tagline for our short story competition. So I'm delighted today that we have such a wonderful audience, and I know that we have some of the winners in the audience as well as the winners here on stage with me. In fact, just congratulations to all of you. In fact, we had over 160 entries for this competition. Of those, the judging panel rated 124 because some of them were eliminated because they went outside the word count limit, for example. But it had a huge interest from all over the world. Indeed, many entries came from not just Malaysia or Asia, but much further afield in other parts of the world. So it's a hugely popular competition. The judges read 124 stories, and then each one gave scores, and we selected the very best 20 from those, who are the winners, who've now been published in the book that we're launching today. So that's really the background to all of this. So we're here now to launch the book. But before doing so, we're going to have a conversation about short stories, about stories supporting the the Sustainable Development Goals, and that's really why we're here on stage right now. So I'm going to have a conversation with our wonderful people here, who are all, in fact, highly accomplished writers themselves. Let me just tell you a bit about them all. First, if I start with, on the far end, my far left is Lee Soo Kim. Soo Kim was born and grew up in Kuala Lumpur. She started her teaching career as an English language teacher in rural Kelantan before returning to KL to work as an English language teacher at University Kebangsaan Malaysia, where she became Associate Professor of English Language Studies. Her writing spanned academic articles and both fiction and non-fiction books. Her books have included a trilogy of books of short stories on the Peranakan Babas and Nyonyas, one of which won first prize in the Popular Star Reader's Choice Award for fiction in 2011. Her non-fiction work includes her best-selling books Malaysian Flavours, Insights into Things Malaysian, and Manglish, Malaysian English at its Wackiest, and both have sold more than 10,000 copies. So that's Lee Soo Kim. Then we have Anita Sundararaj. Anita is an award-winning short story writer. She initially trained and practiced as a lawyer before deciding to pursue her dream of becoming a writer. In 2022, she won the Tricia Ashley Award as well as the first prize in the A.G. Bates Short Story Competition. She has created her own website called How to Tell a Great Story as a resource for storytellers. She's written for many magazines, e-magazines and journals, and contributed many lifestyle articles to the New Straits Times. Her most recent and best-selling novel, The Age of Smiling Secrets, was shortlisted in 2020 for the National Book Award by the National Library. And Anita is one of the winners of the Blue White Dot Short Story Competition. You're welcome, Anita. And then last but certainly not least, on my left here we have Paul Ganana Selvam. Paul was born in Ipoh and is a writer and poet whose work often focuses on experiences, issues and identity conflicts of those in the Indian diaspora. Writing since 2006, he has published both locally and internationally in anthologies, literary journals and e-magazines. His first collection of short stories, Latha's Christmas and Other Stories, was published in 2013, while The Elephant Trophy and Other Stories was published by Penguin Random House in 2021. He currently lectures at University of Technology Mara in Perak, and Paul is one of the winners of the Blue White Dot Short Story Competition, and in fact is the runner-up overall. So welcome, Paul. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, as you can see, we have some really very highly accomplished writers with me here on the stage. I'm not one of them, they are. Both prize-winning authors, best-selling authors, and so on. So they're really excellent writers. And what I want to do now is try to learn something from them all. So let me just begin by perhaps asking them. Particularly, I'd like to ask perhaps Anita and Paul to begin with. Why did you enter the Blue White Dot Short Story Competition? What was it that made you go in for this competition in the first place? The microphone.
Can you hear me? I had a story, and I actually submitted it on the very last day.
Okay.
So, because I wasn't ready with the story, and that was my thing. I was mulling, and then I handed it in, submitted it in. So why did I submit? I've been submitting stories, and it was something that fascinated me. So I wanted to know whether you would be interested in a story which was so completely on environment. It wasn't dystopia. It was something that was almost quite funny. So that was my impetus to see. Because it wasn't the only competition that I submitted, but once this was accepted, I withdrew from all the others.
I see.
So,
okay.
yeah, that was honest answer as to why I submitted.
But it's kind of set in the future, isn't it, with
Yes,
the story? So it's
very much so.
Yeah,
You want me to tell you what the story is about?
maybe a bit later. But I mean, Paul, what was your motivation for entering the competition?
I had a story as well, just like Anita, and I was attracted to the theme of the competition, sustainable development goals. I never imagined that this could come as a theme in literary writing or creative writing. I think writers have been addressing sustainable goals, sustainable themes of sustainability. The very idea of being in a diaspora actually focuses on sustainability. So I thought the theme was very interesting, and I had a story. And of course, you've got to re-edit, retell the story so that it fits into the theme, and I tried my luck. And I won. Yay! Thank you.
Well, it's really good that you came second, which is a great achievement for Malaysia, because it was truly a local competition. So well done.
Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I'd like to try ask a little bit about how you all three of you went on your journeys as storytellers, because each one of you has written short stories, had them published. I'm kind of curious to know how you got into doing that, because people might think I like to be a writer, but is short story writing a good place to start or not? Just try and share your own stories about how you got into short story writing and your own journey. Maybe I'll start with Sue Kim, who's not spoken so far. So tell us about your own stories, your own journey as a writer.
Okay, thank you first of all to Sunway University Press for inviting me here, and I managed to find some white dots on the blue sarong for this occasion. My journey as a writer, I started first as a columnist for The Star, writing a column called Malaysian Flavors. It's not about cookery, it's not about cuisine, it's about all these interesting things about Malaysians, that some interesting commonalities that we don't seem to realize. Now, we're not in little ethnic boxes. We've got lots of interesting things that bind us. For example, frequencies like when you compliment in Malaysia, oh, you're looking so pretty today, lovely dress, oh no, like pasar malam ini, or your hairstyle, so like, oh no, like, this is old hair, that kind of thing. Manglish expressions and so on. So that column ran for about 3 years, after which I wrote Manglish. And then I was in Texas, America for about 3 or 4 years. And I was asked strange questions like, oh, you come from Malaysia? Do you still live in trees? Things like that. Or how come you speak such good English? Or you mean you write books in English? No way. You write in Malay, that kind of thing. So lots of interesting East-West conundrums. And after that, so that became another book called A Nyonya in Texas. Insights of a strange Chinese woman in the Lone Star State. So after 3 or 4 books of non-fiction, I thought, why not try fiction? And I come from a very colorful, flamboyant community, the Babas and Nyonyas. I'm sure you know about this hybrid community, which has got English influences, Portuguese, Dutch, Malay, Javanese, Batak, Balinese, and so on, right? Lots and lots of colorful characters. And my mother used to tell me lots of interesting stories, and she'll say things like, even though she was very happily married to my father till the last day of her life and his life, she'll say, never trust a man until he's dead, Because when the accountant across the road died, very, very good man, never strayed, always at home, but he always took the dog for a walk at 6 o'clock and came back at 7 o'clock. And when he died, his mistress was with the little children in tow turned up. So that's why you see, kid, I told you, never trust a man until he's dead, and so on. So lots of lovely stories like that, which I thought, okay, I'm going to write short stories based on my mother's and aunties and grandmother's stories. And that's how Kebaya Tales came about. This one, celebrating the Kebaya, which happens to be nominated for UNESCO now. After Kebaya Tales, after Kebaya, you must have the sarong, right? So I wrote Sarong Secrets, all the secrets of the sarong, including what's underneath it. But of course, it's very, very, very proper stories. followed by another one called Manic Mischiefs. I wanted 3 stories. So after Kabaya, Sarah was like, what do you call the last book? Do you call it Kurosang Knockers? Or Sarong Scandals, you know? So I thought, okay, the shoes, because the nonnas like to wear very colorful beaded shoes. So I named the last book Manic Mischiefs, and that's how I got into short stories.
Thank you. Anita.
Well, as you said, I trained as a lawyer and I practiced, and then one day I decided that I had enough, so I stopped. And my first foray into writing was actually a novel, Banana Leaf Man, and I self-published. It wasn't. It was baptism by fire because I learned everything, book, color. I didn't have very much money, so I had to do the cover design. I learned it from scratch. And then I decided, okay, now I will learn how to. That was a successful book. Then I started short stories. I was doing it all the time anyway. And also in tandem, I was doing novels. Then I thought I'd stop. I wanted to do non-fiction work. So I started being a ghostwriter, and I was a columnist for not columnist, I was a contributor for lifestyle articles to the NST. So I did a lot of non-fiction work, and at the same time, my father was ailing. So, I had to stop, basically, and look after him, manage a lot of things. So after he died, I finished the novel, the latest novel, the one you said, The Age of Smiling Secrets. And I decided that I would, MPH had accepted the short story collection, but they were not willing to accept this, but they were willing to help me self-publish it because the novel is controversial. It's about a woman who loses a child because her husband converts to Islam and the repercussions that happen and from that. So all that happened in tandem, and then once my father died, I started writing in earnest, and not just writing but submitting, publishing, and really got into it, and that's where I am now. So yeah, I also have several short story collections coming out.
Are you a full-time writer now?
Yes, now I'm a full-time writer.
Wow.
Because my mother still needs me. So to be employed, it's not an easy thing when you have to say, sorry, I have to go because my mother needs me. It's much easier to sit at home and write than when they need me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul.
Thank you, Professor Graham. This is difficult. Summarizing 18 years of writing. How did I come into writing? One of the big reasons is, I'm not sure if the young people remember the Kampung Medan, Kampung Lindungan incident. The racial riots that took place in Kampung Medan and Kampung Lindungan incident in the 1998, yeah? I was always detached from politics. I thought politics will never affect me until one day this incident started boiling over. And that particular semester, I was reading K.S. Maniam's In a Far Country in UKM. By the way, Dr. Lee Soo Kim is one of my lecturers who taught me for 2 weeks in UKM. And is really proud to share the stage today with her. Never imagined it. And I got scared actually. Alright. Lecturers are always intimidating, and I'm a lecturer. I think I'm doing the same to my students anyway. So we were doing K.S. Maniam, and this whole idea of migration, of how the protagonist migrated from India, and this whole idea of people coming in ships, people looking at the Velekara, the white man, alright? And this whole idea of Christianization, enculturation, this whole idea, alright, this whole process of migration really fascinated me. Why? Because I had this puzzle in my head, because the stories of migration were told and retold by my grandparents when I was young. I never made out what they were until I read K.S. Maniam. Now, K.S. Maniam was very academic because I was doing a literature course in UKM. It's not easy. And 2 semesters later, the Dean of Pusat Bahasa, Dr. Fadila American, who was actually teaching us literature, called me to her office and showed me a Time magazine issue. And I actually saw an Indian man carrying 2 kerosene tins. I don't know what they contain, but this guy made it to the Times issue of that particular year, of that particular month. And Dr. Fadila American was telling me, you know, Paul, you should be writing about this. I never understood what she was saying. So I didn't start writing, but I think that created that sensitivity, that feeling of intrigue, the feeling of interest, because I felt that I come from a great story. And this is somebody who has never been to India. I don't know how life there, who never grew up in the estates. I don't know how the glimpses were, except that I've been picking it up all along throughout my childhood. So I had this big puzzle in my head, and 4 years later, I decided to write. I decided to put this puzzle together. For me, it is a homecoming experience to be able to understand where was I. Was I the man who was carrying the 2 kerosene tins on that Time magazine? So I had that mirage planted in me up to today. And I must thank Dr. Fadila American wherever she is. God bless her. And in 2004, I started writing. My first short story was a horror story. Alright? And from then on, I became a writer. I learned to become a professional creative writer. I took a comprehensive diploma in creative writing. And fast forward, here I am. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask if each of you could perhaps just share something about how you go about writing a short story. Because I'm curious myself about this. I mean, does the whole thing come to you in your mind at the beginning, or do you start writing and it evolves as you write? I'm kind of curious about the process, and I'm not sure whether the process is the same for all of you, or whether whether there are great differences. But just share your own, because you've all written short stories that have been published. How do you go about writing one, and what is that kind of creative process that you go through? It'd be good if you could all just share that with the audience. Thank you. Sue Kim, yeah.
Okay, for short stories, you don't have the advantage of length, right? So you don't have the advantage of fleshing out your characters and coming up with some kind of intricate plot. You have to somehow get your message across, what you're trying to say, in just a kind of a short, condensed thing. So you have to be very skillful, you have to be very deft with the portrayal of characters. And for me, I feel that a short story has to end on like a question mark. It has to like punch your reader in the stomach. Wow! It shouldn't just be a linear, sequential thing like blah blah blah. Went to the market, his wallet got stolen. He was so upset. He went around to look for the tourist police, and then wonderful, somebody found the purse for him. That's not a short story. It shouldn't just be linear. So for me, it starts with little nuggets of ideas. It's very important to talk to your family, to be very observant, to always have your ears and eyes out. For example, I remember this very lovely auntie whom we used to visit during Chinese New Year. She was short, she was stocky, she was very, very fair, very, very fair. We used to ask her mother, who is this auntie? My mother says, ECG Puna Lang very good, that kind of thing. So this and that's a nugget of a story. And I wrote a short story called The Courtesan from Gyeon, how this Japanese woman came over during the Japanese occupation. Before that, she was supposed to be a spy, but in the end she fell in love with the Malaysian community, with the Peranakan family that she was embedded in, and in the end, it hangs on a question mark. Was she going to deny her Japanese identity, or was she going to embrace it? Because embracing her Japanese identity would save her from being beheaded by the Japanese soldiers. So it ends on that kind of question mark, and it ends with the sword falling on her neck kind of thing. So for me, sometimes the short stories are very clear in my head. I know how it ends. Sometimes I don't. I just have that little nugget of idea, and I sit down and write. And as you write, the ideas come along, the prose flows. Does that answer your question? Right.
Okay, thank you. Very, very interesting. Anita, yeah.
Mine, for Nusantara Crimes, I read the papers, so I had read that quote in in the book by Radcliffe about Nusantara, which is the new capital in Kalimantan. So from there, the story Nusantara Crimes is actually based on my own experiences in court and the 3 cases, but I said it in the future, and I just wanted to know, everybody's, because the quote was, it's environmentally destructive what they're doing to Kalimantan. Is it or is it not? And then so that's how the germ of the idea came about, that you can have this new wonderful metropolis, which is exactly how KL started, how Penang started. They were nothing. They were just small settlements, and now look at us. We're huge. It's the same thing. That's how I started. But when I start writing, I start with the quote, and I start with dialogue. I don't usually have all the other elements in place. I start with the dialogue. Then once the dialogue is there, then I fit everything else in. For me, that has always been the easiest way to do it. Sometimes it's the other way around, but most of the time I start with dialogue because I can imagine what people are saying. I try to write as they speak. That's the easiest for me. Does that answer your question? Yes?
Okay, thank you. Very interesting. Okay, Paul.
For me, writing has been very research-orientated, very experiential. I always thought, because I'm a literature student, writing has to follow a certain plot. There should be a beginning, there should be climax, there should be anti-climaxes, there should be an ending, and the hero saves the day, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was failing at that. For me, it has been very non-formulaic. I just write from the heart, and my writings are quite trigger-friendly. All right, okay, because I deal with a lot of identity, everyday nuances trigger me to write. For example, I have Chinese friends who come to my house on Christmas Day and ask me, "Hey Paul, where's the turkey? Hey Paul, where's the Christmas cake? Hey Paul, where are my Christmas presents? Excuse me, I'm Indian." You see, the whole idea of Eurasianizing, Indian Christians into thinking that what I see in commercials is what you have in an Indian home. So, for me, that's the struggle that I have between, I'm a 3rd generation of Christian Indians, and I'm going against the current. My God, my grandmother is going to turn in her grave. Okay, so I'm very trigger-friendly in that sense. So I don't necessarily start with a character, or with a plot, or with a theme in mind. I report what I think, and that is the departure point in my stories. I think it's very important to have a departure point in your story, because that is going to keep you focused, and that is going to help you to fill up, to flesh out the characters that you're creating, the plot sequence that you're going to come up with, and sharpen the focus of the theme of your story. So in that sense, I'm very, very non-conventional, I think. And like what I told you earlier, I put puzzles together, and definitely that is how I write and I carry messages in my story. Many publishers will tell you, hey, where's the arc? There should be an arc in the story. There should be a point where you drive everything to a dangerous point and say, ta-da! Alright? I think that's not necessary. Alright? So you, as a writer, you should be independent, because you're a creative being. And the point of departures should be in your control when you're writing. I feel that works for me, and that is how basically I do my writing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm curious to know, do you, all of you in a sense, base much of your stories on your own personal experiences? Now, I'll ask a question to know, Anita, your story in the book is actually it's based on a legal process. It obviously comes from your legal background. And Paul, your story is about an educator. So and obviously Sue Kim, yours is about Chinese community and so on. So I wonder whether, you know, the things you write come from your own experiences largely, or whether you venture into something completely different. I mean, any thoughts on that from any of you?
Nusantara was quite personal because he's Mr. Justice Lingam, Ranjan Lingam. So I did practice with Mr. Ranjan. You know, that was his surname. So Mr. Ranjan was my opposing lawyer, and you know I did like him very much in the sense that I respected him enormously. And Annie Sue is also another character who was a lawyer who slept in court. And you know, and we were all like, how can you sleep? You know, so that was one. And in my story, it's very hot. But actually, when I was in practice in Penang, one day we went in the afternoon, and it was the last jury trial. And all of us lawyers were sitting similarly like this, and you know the bar table, and there was water pouring down because it was such an old building that it was leaking. So I just switched it around and made it into this enormously hot space. And long bar, everybody knows, anyone who's a lawyer knows about the long bar in Selangor Club. So I just transported it. So if you ask me, is it personal? Yes, very. And the 3 cases were actual cases, but again, I changed it, around, in that one. I come from Alustar, so Alustar is paddy land all around, and slowly the paddy land is being used up. There's no more paddy land, so I just made it that in the future there is no paddy, and everybody has to eat carbohydrate tablets, and abuse happens, and incitement to commit a crime, to Iblis, and to Iblis is Iblis, Iblis is devil. So this is very much a personal story, so if you read it, we do have cases. I used all that I had, so in it, and we did have a court clerk who stuttered, so we used to, I wasn't making fun of him, but I used that because it was, in my story, Ranjan makes fun of him because he's frustrated, but we used to go to listen, and I remember we also had, I was on the 6th floor, my firm was on the 6th floor, and the 5th floor was Lim Ken Siu. And when we were chambering students, we had nothing better to do sometimes. So we would just ring Lim Ken Siu just to hear him say Lim Ken Siu and Company. Just to hear the guy say that. We were so bored with our lives. So all those things play. So sorry, Mr. Lim Ken Siu, but yes, that's what we used to do. So I use those things into my stories. So.
Okay. So Kim, are the stories you write or inspired by experiences you've had, things that happened to you, or people you know?
Yes, I think it's most powerful when you're true to yourself, when you write from your comfort zone. I always can't figure out how on earth people like Arthur Haley wrote Shogun or Hawaii, and I'm just amazed how on earth do you do it? Even when I try to have a protagonist who's a male, I find it difficult because I'm female, and it's like so difficult to try and put myself in the shoes of a boy or a man, but I have some stories of that. So I think it's very important to be very true to yourself, and the best starting point would be your own stories, where your comfort zone is. For example, like you mentioned, you shared from your viewpoint as a lawyer, Paul's as a lecturer, right? So I think that's the best. But I remember going back to my younger days, long time ago, since Paul has disclosed as his teacher, I used to be like feeling so threatened, because you're writing in a global lingua franca. We're choosing English language, right? But we're not native English persons. But we're choosing to write in a language that can reach a very wide readership. Of course, you can write in Mandarin, you can write in Tamil, and so on. But if you want a huge readership, you want more people to know your stories, you choose global languages. So when I used to feel like, oh, how come I'm not English? How am I going to write? How am I going to write in English when I'm not an English person? But now I realize that's not the case, right? We have to tell our stories. Stories should not just be from the Western canon. Stories should not just be about hedgehogs and butterflies and Beatrice Potter. We need the stories of the Nusantara, Southeast Asia, all our experiences. So now I think it's very important. So writing in English, okay, we go for it. We have to master the language. The other interesting thing is because I write about my family stories and all the fears and scandals and so on, sometimes you have cultural things in our cultures that do not have an English language word. I found that quite interesting because I've got 4 degrees in English, right? A Bachelor of Arts, a Master's, a Diploma, and a PhD, but I couldn't find the word for that particular cultural expression. For example, amok is in the English language, so that's not a problem. But balata, you know, that kind. No, if you go throughout the whole of China, you'll never find a Chinese woman balata. You know, to sort of burst out in spontaneous expression. Sometimes they even start standing up and dancing. But I'm sure you know that, right? Lata. In Southeast Asian cultures. Malay and Nyonyas do that. And there's no word in English. So sometimes you just have to use the Malay word, right? Like you use sushi or satay or gotong royong. The other one is kena cium. I'm sure you've got grandmothers, sorry about the bad joke, who tell you when you're pregnant you cannot go and knock the nail on the wall because then you're going to have a child with a cleft lip, you know, and so on. So I had a grandmother who, when she gave birth to a little girl, she was startled at night by a chetia who came knocking the door, a very, very dark Indian, Malacca Chetty Indian, and she was startled. When she gave birth to the little baby, the baby was very, very dark, the color of that Chettia guy who came knocking the door.
Congratulations.
So no word for that again. I tried every word in the English language, thesaurus, dictionary, Stephen Hall, who's a native speaker. It's not spooked, it's not bewitched, it's not black magic, it's not demonized. It's kena cium, right? So these are the interesting things that you discover as you write.
So Paul, you write from your own experiences, Martin?
Yeah, because I think we are all socially constructed people. I think what happens around us affects us, and we learn from whatever that is happening from around us. I think writing is, for me, is very introspective. I think there's a lot of empathy that you express through writing, and definitely in order, I think as writers, we keep on make meanings, all right, of the world around us, of the people around us, of the experiences that we are gaining, yeah? So definitely, 5 to 10% of any writing that we do is departing from our own characters, experiences, the people, the observable things that are taking place around us. Alright? But as the saying goes, the rest is fiction. So definitely my environment, the people whom I'm dealing with, my experiences play a very important role. How I feel plays a very important role in my writing. I think this is my way of realizing my place in the universe and telling others, look, this is me. And of course, that makes my experience authentic. That makes me as a credible writer. Alright? So definitely yes, a bit of us are in the story.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to touch on the subject now of sustainability, because that's the theme behind the Blue White Dot short story competition. The Sustainable Development Goals, sustainability, this is very serious stuff. It's important for the future of the world. And of course, it's political and everything. And of course, at this very moment, we've got the COP28 global conference on the climate change going on again, and every year they try and solve the problem. We never quite get around to solving the problems, but I mean, these are serious issues, really. And I'm kind of curious to know your thoughts on how fiction writing can contribute to the kind of global awareness and global movement to try and make the world a more sustainable place. Would anyone like to share some thoughts on that topic? Anyone? Ladies first.
Ladies first. Okay. Well, my background is law, legal law. So the sentence that I always think is that you can have anything you want, but when there's conflict, you need a way to resolve the conflict. So for me, that is what, when you have SGD, Sustainable Goals, SGD, one of the things you need to work on is conflict resolution. And I realized that even in COP, everybody's talking about it, but no two countries are going to agree on anything. And you can have mediation, you can have arbitration, but two very different things: mediation and arbitration and consultation. And you can come up with all these things, but how are you going to enforce it? Enforcement is a huge problem. Even in today's papers, there's carbon tax. How is Malaysia going to implement carbon tax? Is it sustainable? Can the Malaysian government, and even within ASEAN region? And when I studied, it was still EEC. It wasn't even EU. So that's how old I am. The argument there was a simple thing like a directive, tomatoes. Can you import tomatoes from Belgium into UK? Would it be different? So even if one's genetically modified, one's not. Similarly, in ASEAN region, are we able to have free movement of goods? So those are the things that fascinate me. And how do I convert that? And then comes conflict. In my story, Nusantara Crimes is about conflict and conflict resolution. And what I created was a whole world where it wasn't just, right now we have Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, so on and so forth. In my story, I just made it the Far East, Federation of the Far East, FFE. And so you have this, Kalimantan becomes the main focus of it. So that's how, to answer your question, that's how I used SGD to create this story. Because I'm already aware of it, because writing environmental fiction is a new genre. So everybody wants to write, and I like the stories. There's 17, you can create 17 different stories, mental health, so on and so forth. So that is how I constructed it. Whether it's right, it's wrong, I don't know.
It's interesting you said it's a kind of new genre. I was going to ask that question actually. Could sustainability become a new genre of writing? I mean, when I read all 124 stories that went into the competition, what was interesting was, of course, that there was a particular kind of focus or theme to them all, but they also were very different in the sense that some were set very much into the future, some were based in the present, some were very bleak, the future of the world is very bleak, others were kind of full of hope, others dealt with contemporary issues, gender equality, poverty, these kind of things. Some were very bleak, some were very optimistic, showing how someone has succeeded against adversity. Huge range of spectrum of kind of ideas and notions in these stories. But obviously all focused on the issues, underlying issues of sustainability, humanity, civilization, and I wonder, is it a kind of genre? Could it become a genre? I think.
This is one story. I have another one, which is Say Hello to Yama. And it came about from last year's, there were landslides, the 31 people who died in the landslide. So I wrote that story, Say Hello to Yama, and that is also very popular. It's just shortlisted for awards and so on and so forth. But it is a new genre. It is gaining popularity. And the one I wrote was about, landslides. This one is about law. But you have 17 different categories. So you can create, if you write even one work of fiction, one collection and pick each one, you get a full collection. And it is gaining. There are many, many publishers all over the world who are interested in this.
I think when we talk about sustainability, we are talking about creating a balance. We are talking about creating harmony. Alright? So when we talk about the environment, we are talking about a win-win situation between clearing large expanses of forest areas and making sure at the same time we are creating jobs for the local people. We are bringing in electricity, we are bringing in water supply, and we are building, and because it is profitable, we are building schools, we are building clinics, we are building facilities. But is that sustainable? Is that sustainability? Alright? I think for eons, the human experience have all created the recordings of experiences because there are conflicts with sustainabilities. So when the SDGs come about, and there are 17 themes under the SDG, I think they have made it easier for us to put a label to these topics, to this wide variety of experiences that we are dealing and writing with. All right, so that's interesting. So there's one word I noticed that keeps on repeating: inequality. There's inequality in education. There's inequality in the distribution of natural resources. There's inequality in how funds are managed. There's inequality in the qualities of people's lives. All right. So I think this is going to continue to be a point of contention, probably in human existence. And I really like the idea that a lot of authors dealt with living planet Earth to another planet. I thought it's a wonderful idea. When? I need to buy a ticket. But the thing is, we are here in the present. And there is a problem that with sustainability, sustaining the planet Earth for life. So I think it is an important genre to remind people, look, you have to save your home. These are your people. You have to take care of everybody's lives. All right? And this is you. You matter in this whole ecosystem. Right? So I think, and thank you for Sunway for bringing up the SDGs as a theme, and for us to be able to actually go into this, experiment, and apply creative writing into this. At the end of the day, we are really relating real life, real things, real people through our stories. So I think it is an important genre, and this effort must be continued. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, hold on, the SDGs, SGDs, no, SDGs.
SDGs.
No poverty, zero hunger, just for those who are not quite sure. Yeah, good health, quality education, gender, they're very, very broad. They cover a very wide range of concerns. So I'm not quite sure whether it's going to be a new genre, because the concerns are very, very wide-ranging. And already we've got many genres who already touch on gender equality, quality education, justice, peace, and strong institutions. So I don't know, but I think it serves as a very useful umbrella. For example, like what Paul says, for organizing competitions like this. And I think it's a very innovative advance on the part of Sunway University. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd now like to ask whether you have any advice for people, for young people who might be thinking of becoming creative writers. I'd like interested to know your thoughts on that. I mean, I think many people like the idea of one day becoming an author and writing their own books. But I was reading the other day that something like 4 million books are published every year, about 11,000 every day. So there's a lot of competition there if you want to write a book. But really, I mean, obviously you need to use that. You become more a full-time writer. I mean, others maybe not. I'm not sure if you are, but I mean, share your own thoughts. I mean, if anyone, a young person, or maybe not so young, who's thinking of starting a new career as a writer, would you advise them to do that? Do you think you can make a living doing that or not? What are your own reflections on that idea?
I can answer the second part. You can't make a living out of it, full stop. You need to financially plan. You really need to. I was telling somebody, I didn't leave practice until I knew that I could manage. And then frugal living, really frugal living. One of the first things I had to do was, I was in Shandano, so I was in one of the most glamorous firms in all of Malaysia. And you just go to a restaurant, you give your card, and everything opens. I didn't even have to apply for a credit card. I just gave my name card. So it was so easy. And then suddenly, nobody knows you. You have to. I remember I used to, I traveled to Al-Astar. So my father used to complain that I would get speeding tickets, and I'm like, no, it's fine. Actually, I'm going to drink it. I just pay it. Once I stopped, I have never got a speeding ticket. and just go straight, because you really can't afford it. So you have to financially plan. So once you're financially secure, then you follow your dream. I have no advice as such. This is my experience, like Ivan asked me, what advice would you have for writers? I don't. I read the papers every day. I read the papers. That's the only advice that I have. So I enjoy reading, and I read physical paper because I'm so old-fashioned. But yeah, that's about all I can share. Other than that, it's hard work. It's like any other discipline. If you are in law, you're a lecturer, you're so on and so forth. It's discipline. You have to sit and you have to write and you have to work at it and you have to, grit your teeth and take the criticism. And then you learn whether someone is criticizing you personally or someone is criticizing your work. So you just accept the criticism that is about your work, and then you let go of the personal side, or deal with it, or manage it, or block it. So.
Okay. Any other thoughts? What is creative writing a way of making a living? Honest answer, no. You can't. There's no way you can survive, especially in Malaysia, and especially when the readership is shrinking. People are always on their phones and Netflix and TikTok and so on. So less and less reading going on. Unless you are J.K. Rowling, and even she struggled a lot. I remember reading about her. She was so poor, but she loved writing. She was writing on napkins in restaurants. It was that bad. So for every million aspiring writers, you only get one J.R. Rowling or one Anthony Doerr or Tan Tuan Ing, right? How to get started? I suppose in the end, for me, I was an academic in the university, so you had to publish or perish, So there's this constant tussle with academic writing and my love for creative writing. I wanted to write to touch people's hearts, not to be stuffed in some boring library and get marks for quantitative for being in the Scopus journals. I wanted to write to touch hearts because I love writing. So as you were saying, you have to be very dedicated. You have to be very passionate. But at the end of the day, it's 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. There are days when you hate yourself, and I hate myself. Like, so stupid, horrible draft. You have to draft and rewrite all the time. The first draft comes up like nonsense, and then you start hating yourself. So you've got to be very disciplined. You've got to say no to going out for coffee or tea or dinners with your friends. You have to just sit there and write every day. And of course, for me, I'm retired. There's a lot of distractions, trips, outings, coffee with girlfriends, and so on. You've got to sort of like disappear into your own world. It helps a lot to be humble, to give it to a friend. Like in my case, Stephen Hall is my sounding board. And you don't want bouquets. You don't want people to say, oh, it's so nice, very good. No, you want the brutal, honest truth. Someone says, this is real crap. You just have to rewrite it again, and so on. So you have to be persistent. And you have to stop beating yourself over it, because we constantly do that all the time. We're insecure, we feel inadequate. I mean, Stephen hears it all the time. I say, oh, this is just rubbish. This is just rubbish. Who wants to read this stupid rubbish? Who wants to read my grandmother's stories, that kind of thing. But you have to persist, and you have to strive for excellence. Don't, I need to get published quickly, glamour. No, you have to strive for excellence. This is what my school drilled into me. I was in a mission school, Bukit Bintang Girls' School. Even when they make a little pot of candy, you've got to make it to the best of your ability. So don't settle for half-baked things, and don't shortchange yourself. Do to your utmost best. And the other thing is believe in yourself. Don't try to be Tan Tuan Ing or Margaret Mitchell or whatever famous writer you adore. Your voice has to come out. You've got to be genuine and sincere. Right? Thank you.
Tough advice. Okay, all right. This is the impression that I get from a lot of my students who walk through my door and say, "Sir, I want to be a writer." I deduce that many of them feel that if you're a writer, there's a lot of glamour in it. All right. Is there glamour in it? No money, no glamour, right? Okay. So I feel that when they sit down and I tell them the amount of work that you have to do before you can even flush out a short story, right? And when I ask my students, hey, have you written anything? Nothing. So you've got to start somewhere. You've got to take a paper, pencil or pen, or open your laptop somewhere. Start scribbling something so that you have something to work on. So that's the glamour part. I think a lot of tips were already given by Anita and Dr. Lee. For me, the toughest part of being a writer was facing rejections. I got very angry with people who rejected my story. So these are editors. These are publishing company. I would go on days ranting, scolding them, cursing them. Alright? But along the way, it was also a learning process. There were very kind editors who sent me notes to tell me, hey, you have a lot of dangling modifiers. What's that? Now, what's that dangling? But it was a learning process for me to go and find out what it was. And that actually helped me to improve. So, I think there's a lot of testing and improving. There's a lot of failure and success. I think you don't become a writer overnight. So there's a lot of learning process that you must go through. So facing rejections is one of them, and knowing and accepting that it's not really a glamorous role, but you do enjoy glamour. I'm in Eslite, nice lights, my hair is shining, alright? And I meet wonderful people, alright? Yes, you do that. I walk to the airport, I've got people coming up and telling me, hey, I've seen you somewhere. Did you write this? Alright? So it's nice, but it takes time. Alright? You just have to be patient and you need to learn the ropes. As in any work, as in any product, requires any type of work. Yeah? Alright, that's all.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to ask a question now about technology is disrupting many aspects in life. I'm curious to know what all of you think about artificial intelligence, because now we have programs that can literally write stories, it can make things up, it can even create artistic works, maybe not such good ones. But I'm curious to know what you might think about this. I mean, is this a threat to the future of writers, or is what AI programs can produce complete rubbish, or does it even threaten writers by violating their copyright, which is a concern of many people? I'd like to know your reflections on that on the topic. Do you think AI is going to be destroying the careers of writers? Is it going to be a very bad step, or is it going to be something positive and create more interesting stories? What do you think about that?
My thoughts first? Okay, I think it's not a threat at all, because writing by AI, ChatGPT, is banal, unoriginal, bland, right? It just feeds on all the data out there and then just vomits it out for you. So I don't think it's really a threat to creative writers. It's probably good if you're trying to write a condolence message or a manual. Let's say, have you come across manuals, let's say from selling products from Japan or Korea, and they show you all kinds of diagrams, A to B, put B to C and C to D because they don't have the English? Probably AI will be very good for doing that. It's good for writing templates, instruction manuals, reports, mainly non-creative writing. In fact, I think, Stephen, you mentioned that at Sunway University, Dr. Stephen Hall's former head of sales, he found that short essays, first-year essays, using ChatGPT could only achieve, at best, a grade of C-, not A, not B. So it's pretty good for weak writers, a good way of learning how to write better. And so I is going to school, I am going to school, ChatGPT can correct you. But for me, the other problem with ChatGPT is it's not very honest as well. I mean, as writers, because can you imagine that, let's say you want to write a short story about, let's say, your grandmother, a Nona grandmother, you go to ChatGPT and it feeds on everything out there, which is using stories that some of us may have written. So for someone like me, an academic who spends so much time teaching my students, you you must always cite, you must always refer, you must always acknowledge citations, acknowledgements, and so on. Along comes this huge monster and starts this, feeding on everything out there and all the work of the writers and rehashing it, which to me is quite terrifying. And no, I have not experimented with ChatGPT. Sometimes when I write, I get stuck. For example, I'm trying to describe a stormy sea and it just stuck sometimes, writer's block. It is so tempting to just switch on the ChatGPT and but I just refuse so that I can face whatever audience I have to face and say no, and never ever resort it to AI. So for me, if you believe in the individual voice, if you believe in the freedom of expression, then you have to keep on writing and do not feel threatened by ChatGPT, by AI. Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Yeah, Paul?
I think ChatGPT is a glamorized version of Wikipedia. Alright, because I think there's always pros and cons where technology is concerned, yeah? And I think as lecturers, as academics, we are now currently being trained to fight ChatGPT against plagiarism. Alright? So the onset of plagiarism, I think 20 years ago, when we started publishing theses, journal articles online, and before we made them open access to the public and all that. So the concept of plagiarism have actually ballooned out of proportion, out of context, and now you've got ChatGPT. And my students tell me, sir, can I use ChatGPT to finish writing this extract or summarize this and all that? And of course, like what Dr. Lee says, it takes away the individuality. And when it comes to creative writing, every writer, every human being is distinctly different, right? We all have common psyche of thoughts, but our experiences through which we channel those thoughts are going to be very, very different. So how is ChatGPT going to pick up all this? So I've just received the first literature assignment that I gave to my students. They have to read a story, and as usual, they have to summarize it. And I found 9 students repeating the same sentence in their answer. And they tell me they did not copy. Yay. Alright? So the human is capable of being better than machines. Alright? Cognitively, emotionally, and I think there is always this danger part with plagiarism. I was dabbling with ChatGPT and I wanted to write a poem for a post-colonial journal. Alright? I wanted to write about my great-grandmother, of how she was traumatized. She was on her deathbed, and this image has remained in me for a very long time, where she was 90 plus years old. Her children were there, her siblings were there, everybody was there. She has lost children, she has lost relatives, she has lost her parents. But she kept calling for one name, Chandran, her brother, her little brother. And she kept repeating lorries. And what was this about? Alright? So in Malaysia, the Indians and Chinese have a lot of post-colonial experiences and stories to tell. Alright? So my grandparents came from Greek and they resettled in Kuala Kangsar. During the Japanese occupation, they were in Kuala Kangsar. And of course, the Japanese were sweeping everybody, filtering people and all that. And Chandran was 16 years old. This is my great-grandfather, great-great-granduncle. And people, the townspeople, the kampung people, they knew that the Japanese were herding up young men in the kampung to be brought to work on the death railway. People had already hypothesized that at that time. And before my great-grandmother, before my great-grandfather, were able to make the journey to the town center from the kampong, they were too late to do anything. They only heard reports that this young man, Chandran, was in line, was herded up the lorries, and he was never seen again. Could ChatGPT express that in a poem? That anguish that you carry to your grave. So I think this is so important. This is how the world is changing. Sustainability in thoughts and experiences come in. Credibility comes in. Alright, so I feel this is something real that we are struggling with. And as writers, lecturers like myself, people in the academics are already trained to detect what is machine and what is not machine. And I think the struggle is real. Alright? And creative writers should not fall for this. Alright? Because I think one day, when you're not careful, you will be caught for plagiarism. Okay.
Okay, that's all very profound. I shall give an example, because the way I look at it is, you can't fight it entirely. But you as a writer, it's a very individual perspective. You need to have a sense of pride. I'll give an example. When I was in school, we had to do cross-stitch. And so I did mine, and when it came time for the exam, I think I only got something like 45 out of 50. But a friend of mine, she had 49 and a half out of 50. But every stitch of that was mine, and every stitch of hers was some others. So that's how I look at it. And all these years later, similarly, mass-produced. You can go anywhere and you can get cross-stitched tablecloths and whatever you want. So that's how I look at ChatGPT. I don't think you can fight it. I don't think you can ignore it. I don't know how it works yet, but I think it's here to stay. You want mass-produced writing, yeah, you can get mass-produced writing, but if you want something that is individual, like a cross-stitch that you've made that will last for eternity, or your lifetime at least, and something that's original, then you will put in the work, and years later you will read. You read what you write, and you have a sense of pride. I still have that cross-stitch, and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I can see all the mistakes in it, but it's mine. So that's how I made it very individual to understand this question, to sort of figure it out how I would deal with ChatGPT. Yes, I think if I wanted to mass produce something, like you said, condolence message, happy birthday message, I just go find something and Google it or ChatGPT. But if I wanted to write something that was meaningful, I think I would dig deep and try to do something that worked. It may not be the best, it may not be great, it may not be perfect, but it's mine.
But I quite enjoy writing emails where there are suggested phrases that kind of like complete everything. I think it saves time, it makes me very happy. Because I don't have to get creative and all polite and nice there. There's plus and minuses, yeah?
Okay, thank you. We're getting near the end of the session. We move on to the prize giving soon. But we have a few more minutes left. I wonder whether any questions from anyone in the audience. Anyone like to ask any questions of our wonderful writers we have up here on the stage? Anyone like to ask anything? No, don't be shy. They're friendly people. Yeah, yes.
Hi, I was just wondering how environmentally sustainable is this book? Shouldn't we just not print it on paper?
Well, I think it'll be an e-book as well, but maybe the University Press wants to respond. No, well, I think if I can say that we do publish books electronically as well as on paper, but I think, if I'm correct, the Sunway University Press is part of a, Carol, you can say what it is, it's a sustainable development compact or something.
Thank you, Edwin, for the very difficult question. Must you? Okay, thank you very much for the question. I think two things. That's what Prof. Wilkinson has mentioned. I think in our very small ways, the press is very conscious of the fact that we need to do our whole part in promoting this, the SDGs. And one of the key things that we have done is actually we are a signatory of the SDG Publishers Compact. I'm not sure how many of the people here are aware of that, but it's sort of like a subset of the greater goals of the SDGs, and that's where the publishers, the publishing community come together to drive and champion action and to inspire, the achievement of goals of the SDGs, and very, very similar to what we're doing today, the Blue White Dot competition. So in a very small way, Edwin, we are trying, we are doing our part, okay, but I'm sure there are better ways of doing it here. You're absolutely right, but yes, thank you for the question.
Could I add to that,
Yes.
Carol? Elvin, I think the physical books published are quite limited now, owing to the increase of paper price. So people don't want to cut trees, so the price of crepe papers, if I'm not mistaken, has really gone up. So publishers do not publish as many physical books as they used to. They first have the first 100 or 200 physical books printed. Those are the print copies, and they'll wait for 3 to 6 months, and then they'll have the soft copies on Kindle released as well. Soft copy books, how do you call that? This is paperback. Alright, soft copy. This is hard copy. Alright? E-books. Yeah. Alright. So e-books sell better now. So I think there is an increase in awareness, and I think a lot of people are involved in saving the world and making the environment sustainable. So, Elvin, you can reduce your anxiety. Alright, thank you.
Yeah, Stephen.
It's highly likely, looking at the quality of this paper, having been involved in publishing for decades, that it comes from sustainable forests such as there are in New Zealand anyway.
Okay, any more questions from the floor? Yeah.
I don't know if you agree, but as writers, you kind of are your own harshest critic. So considering the careers each of us have, how do you dealt with it at different parts? How do you overcome it?
Cry non-stop. it's there are tears. Sometimes I read it and I'm like, oh my God. And then there are days when I've written something, sent it off to the editor, comes back, and she's, I don't know what this means. And I read it and I'm like, I also don't know what it means. So, what I've learned is that I need time. And now I take time. But yes, harshest critic, how do I deal with it? Cry.
The question is, how do you deal with being a writer? Is it? Oh, definitely. As I shared just now, you hate yourself, you go to a lot of self-loathing, like, self-inadequacy. You always feel that it's not good enough, but that's a good place to be, right? If you're like smug, I've just written a perfect book, then you're not there. So you have to actually be very, very harsh. And as I shared just now, you have to find people to be sounding boards. What I like to share again as a writer is, it's quite an interesting conundrum, because when you're writing, I'm sure Paul and Anita will agree, it's a very solitary experience. You're just all alone in front of the laptop, just writing, cut off from the world, cut off from everything, except just concentrating on writing. And after you have, after overcoming rejections and being successful and getting published, you suddenly swing to the other end of the continuum. Suddenly you have to be out there, you've got to be on social media, you've got to be on Instagram, you've got to be on Facebook, you've got to be on panels, you've got to market your book. Because if you don't, then your book just becomes just a spine, just a silly little 5 cm spine stuck somewhere in the shelf. So you've got to be from a very solitary writer, you've got to end up on the other end of the continuum as a public speaker. You've got to be able to speak, you've got to be able to talk. If you can't, then it's harder to sell a book, you're not so marketable. So it's like a whole package, you know. So it's interesting. It really swing from one end of the continuum to the other end, from very private to very public.
My turn. I think rejections are pretty hard on me because I think if you're a creative person, you're striving for perfection, and you are never ready. And I think we come from a kiasu culture where everything has to glow and it has to be perfect when you put on a platter for others to read. I'm not affected by critics, but I am affected by myself as a critic. Because every time I get a rejection, I start questioning, should I even be writing? Alright, so that's one thing, because there's a lot of hard work that goes in. Number two, I struggle as an academic and a creative writer. I think Dr. Lee has mentioned that. And this struggle was so real when I was doing my PhD, because my supervisor picked it up and said, you're not telling a story, you are writing a thesis. And I had to stop writing. But the thing is, I cannot stop writing because ideas keep floating. So what I did, I stopped writing short stories. I stopped looking for short stories. And that gave me an avenue to try out poetry. Because I thought poetries are shorter, simpler. I was wrong. And, but I did get a lot of poetry, not a lot, some poetry out, and they were published in very distinguished journals. So I think the struggle is constant with what you do every day and what you want to do every day and what you do want to do bodily, mentally, emotionally. I feel that striking that balance, I think is very important, right?
I have one thing to add to that. If you are your harshest critic, by the time you get the story ready, you're very happy with the story. So even if somebody says it's awful, it hurts, but you still know that that's the way. Because sometimes I have a story, I don't know how else to change it, so I just leave it and then submit later on, and I realize that there are times the same story that was not accepted a year before, try again with someone else loves it, and I've never asked why you love it and why you don't. I've now accepted that one person will like it, one person won't. So, but I do cry.
I think I want to add one more thing that we have not mentioned. Writer's block. Alright, so I think be prepared to face writer's block. I think all writers will go through this period of dryness. And again, you will be your harshest critic. Why am I not writing? Why am I not thinking? Why am I even existing? Because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not really dabbling with my inner being. I'm not putting it outside. So this is something to contend with, yeah? All right.
Add to what Anita said. Sometimes after you've written, it's good to just put it away for a while, because if you're so in it, sometimes you cannot get out of it and you can't see where you are. So it's good to lay off for a while, completely not touch it, and then go back to it again. The other thing I like to share as a writer is you get very fond of your people you've created. It's a wonderful experience. It's very rewarding if you're passionate about writing. You've created all these wonderful characters and you get so fond of them, So I like the Aso and the Auntie and the Marianne and so on. So much so that after I'm about to almost finish writing my stories and surrender, look for a publisher, I'm actually quite sad, like, oh, I'm giving birth to this book, and now once this birth is out of my control, it's gone, it's dead. I mean, it's not dead in the sense that they're still alive, other people read them, but I cannot interact with my characters anymore. You actually get to be very fond of the people and the little world you've created, and that's very rewarding as a writer. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've come to the end of this part of the afternoon. We have to move on now to the to the awarding of the prizes for the short story competition winners. Before we do that, let me just once again thank Sue Kim, Anita and Paul for sharing their excellent perspectives. And a big round of applause. Come on, big round of applause. Thank you so much to all three of you for really excellent interactions, and thank you to the audience as well. But don't go away, stay put. We've got another exciting part, the launch of the book and awarding the prizes. Thank you. Over now to our wonderful MC.
Thank you to Prof. Wilkinson and our dear panelists. Let's give them another round of applause, please. Alright, guys, you can take a seat down below.
Use life until 4.
Wow, what an interesting panel discussion we had there. I hope that was actually quite meaningful as a discussion, and I hope that everyone has taken down notes somewhere, someplace, because you probably won't find this anytime soon, except, minus the fact that we're being recorded right now. It's probably on our Facebook page. But if you didn't, and it could mean one more thing. You are extremely excited for the prize giving ceremony. Okay. So today, let me reintroduce. So today we have a very special book that we're going to launch today, as it is quite literally Sunway University Press's first ever fiction baby. Introducing The Pathbreakers and Other Stories, printed under Dialogy, an imprint of Sunway University Press. So allow me to tell you more about the book through my eyes. And I kid you not, I have seen and edited these stories to the point that when I sleep, I see them behind my eyes. It's a bit overdramatic, but as a creative, that's kind of the truth, isn't it? Alright, so The Pathbreakers and Other Stories is the culmination of thought-provoking and eye-opening narratives. These narratives range from near-reality backdrops, such as your own high school, to fictional universes like underwater cities invaded by plastic bags. Imagine that. So the stories in this book show an amazing depth in character and in storytelling. They are inquisitive in their search to merge the world of creative writing and prevailing global issues. Man, I wish I could write like that too. I see some of them here actually. So we have Matthew over there. And then we have Li Ting over here. We have Edwin, who asked the question just now. We have Stephen. Alright. We have Farin over here. We have Ismim at the back there. We have Akil, who is also here. We have Ivan. Both you and me are Ivan. We have Satria as well. And of course, we have Paul and Anita. And all our other winners who are watching this SC live right now. So thank you for your stories. They were extremely enjoyable, not just to me, but to my entire team. I would also like to thank our fellow judges, Prof. Graham Wilkinson, Dr. Stephen Hall, Prof. Leong Chun Heng, who is not here today, as well as Tina Ishak and Shili Kao, for giving us your time and dedication throughout the entire competition. Now, let's get on with the prize-giving ceremony. In order to do so, may I request that Prof. Wilkinson and Miss Carol Wong, head of Sunway University Press and my boss, join the stage to hand out the prize. Okay, so a quick note to the winners. After receiving your prize, may I kindly request that you return to your seats, alright? Not yet, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm proud to announce the amazing and talented top 20 winners of the Blue White Dot short story writing competition in no particular order. Let's put our hands together for the author of A Sea Nomad Speaks, Matthew Yap. Give it up!
Matthew Yap! Yo-ho! Matthew!
Yes. Hype him up. Yes. Okay, great. Next up, we have Old Kong by Yap Li Ting. Please welcome her to the stage.
Oh, let me sing. Oh, yeah. Got people. Yay.
Clap hands for Ipo.
Got people.
All right. Next up, we have the entertainer, Edwin Key. Clap hands.
Edwin.
Okay, cool. Next one's a bit lengthy, but I'm gonna try my best. So the trials and tribulations of a contemporary fisherman, Stephen T. Homer. Let's go.
Stephen.
All right. Next one on our list, Under the Waves, Farron Foam. Clap hands.
Hello, yeah.
All right. Next up, of dugong and seagrasses, Ismin Putra. Clap hands. Energy, more energy. Today's Saturday, it's a weekend. All right. Next up, our panelist, Nusantara Crimes, Anita Sundararaj. Yay. All right. Next one, the peculiar boy, Akil Rifki. Please put your hands together for him. Okay. And the next one, the daycare, Ivan Kwok. Please clap your hands.
Ivan.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and congratulations. Another round of applause for the winners that are present here in the crowd today. Don't worry, your turn will come out. Your turn will come out. Don't worry. Okay, let's give also another huge shout out to one of our top 20 winners who is not able to join us today, author of Darwin, Fazlisha Johanna Bas. And also, the second thank you goes out to all our international winners who obviously, because of sustainability issues, they cannot fly here just for fun, for one day event. So, hello and congratulations to the author of One Step Is All It Takes by Iram Moazzam from Pakistan. Droplets of My Earth, Ryoka Tanoi from Japan. Brittle Wings, Philip Stenström from Sweden. The Thumb Sucker by J.M. Gravidas Parlingayan from the Philippines. The Climbing Gardener, Katie Wimhurst from the UK. Also from the UK, Mulki Ahmed, author of The Color Green. And The Last Loaf of Bread by Tibeti Tini from the US. Now, drum roll please. As we approach our top 3 winners, let me introduce our second runner-up, the author of Harsh Winds, Satria Baskara Prasetya. Satria hails from Indonesia and is a 17-year-old student from Fairview International School. That's right, 17 and I'm 23. Whoa, what a talent. Clap, clap, clap. More. Number 3, you know. Okay, next up, we have our first runner-up and fellow panelist, author of Tug of War, Paul Gunnar Selvum. Paul is a writer and poet from Ipoh with an impressive collection of short stories and poems published both locally and internationally in various magazines and anthologies. So give it up once again for Paul Gunnar Selvum. And before we get to our final winner, I'd like to thank Prof. Wilkinson and Miss Carol for handing out the prizes. You may return to your seats. So while we wait for the projector screen to come down, please give a huge round of applause to our first place winner of the Blue White Dot short story writing competition, author of the Pathbreakers himself, Guy Russell. So Guy Russell actually stays in Milton Keynes, and you'll never guess it, but he's actually a statistician at the UK's Open University. He's a published author of stories and poetry, and I could definitely go on and on and on, but honestly, I think it's best to hear from the man himself. Since he can't join us today, he has so kindly prepared us a thank you message. Take it away, Guy.
Evening, everyone. Please excuse me for appearing in this rather second-best form.
Technical issues.
Best form on video because it's my great regret I can't be at the actual event. Instead, I'm recording this from my little house in Milton, England.
It's okay, the glitch is like part of the video. I totally intentionally put it there. I've been playing around with the, with the video so long.
Video because it's my great regret I can't be at the end.
Yes.
Play.
Don't use technology, right? Exactly. Cut down more trees. I should not be saying that. It's blank actually. I think you can play it now. No, it's okay. Now it's here.
Please excuse me for appearing in this rather second-best form on video because it's my great regret I can't be at the actual event. Instead, I'm recording this from my little house in Milton Keynes, England, where it's cold, dark, and rainy. With the result that more than ever right now, I really do wish I was there. I'm Guy Russell, and I wrote the Pathbreakers. So when I came across the Blue White Dot competition, I think via one of those competition listing sites on the web. But actually I first thought, oh, what a lovely and unusual title. I didn't realise at that point it was a quote from Carl Sagan. And it's nice to have a go at competitions with themes, makes you research new things, and this was a challenging one, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But rather than focusing directly on technologies, politics or ethics, I was thinking about mindsets. And within mindsets, rather than setting up a standard debate between two positions, I thought it might be more interesting to have the protagonists actually so divergent in their attitudes and values that they can barely communicate meaningfully. Anyway, I hope it's clear from the story that it was fun to write, but much more importantly, I'm delighted that it's to be published so prestigiously, not for the prestige itself, well, okay, perhaps a bit, but for the book's chance to contribute in its small way to making the world the nicer place we all dream of, or I mean, some of us dream of. Can I please thank the judges? I'm honoured and amazed to have been chosen as the winner, and can I thank all the friendly and kind editors and organisers at Sunway who I've been emailing with over the last months, especially Ivan, Chong and Hammy, for their patience and enthusiasm. Cheers.
Yeah. So as you can see, there are like text in the video, right? They're totally intentional because I needed to like leave some things out. But we're gonna try and post it on our new website. You know, the full video of it. It's about 5 minutes. That's why. So thanks for that lovely message again, Guy. Congratulations once again for using your creativity and amazing writing. Actually, all of you guys write amazingly, okay? Not just to him. To spark a positive change and to shed light on the UN SDGs. This is exactly what the competition and the book are all about. As we approach the pinnacle of our event, may I get all the winners present, as well as Prof. Grimm, Dr. Stephen Hall, and Associate Prof. Dr. Yo Kit Ho from the Jeffrey Sachs Center on Sustainable Development to come up to the stage to officiate the launch of the Pathbreakers and other stories.
Music. 抱好多人。
Anyone who has a pen? So guys. Okay, so for those who have the pen, right? Before everyone starts photographing, you can actually start signing the poster. So that's kind of like our officiation. Officiating? It's okay. The thing is very big. The poster is very big. Everyone can write on it. Sign. Yeah. Fine. Okay, for those who have not signed yet, please come forward. Don't be shy. This crowd is very small, and you know, it's a safe space.
Where's the people?
Okay, so has everyone signed? Yes. Okay, cool. So winners, let's pose for the camera for an epic group photo. Have you taken that? Like with the sign poster?
Freestyle.
Anyone else wants to take photo? Please.
Freestyle. Okay. Freestyle. Asa dito.
Okay, we do one more freestyle.
Freestyle. Happy. Freestyle. Hello. Happy.
Fantastic. Alright, thank you, and well done everyone. Let's give our winners another huge round of applause. Alright, you guys may return to your seats. As I begin the curtain call, let me stand down. Alright guys. We'll get to chatting later, please. Take your seats. Okay guys. Your energy is like high actually. Right. So as I start the curtain call, I would like to thank everyone who has joined us today for the launch of the Pathbreakers and Other Stories. Thank you to our fellow panelists for your very valuable information during the forum. I would also like to extend my sincerest gratitude to Elite Spectrum for being our partner in organizing and hosting this event with us. Yeah. It's a good bookstore also, by the way. It has been an absolute blast to see all of you, and we would like to wish everyone here the best of luck in your future writing endeavors. Remember, words are powerful and can drive change for a better, fairer, and sustainable world for all of us here. Now, don't forget to get a copy or copies of the Pathbreakers and Other Stories right here in Elite. And since the authors are around, why not get your copy signed as well? So this is Ivan signing off on behalf of Sunway University Press and wishing you all a very nice day.
I need to check what happened.
Is it like wrong page?
Yeah, because it's my friend using her another.
Is it other page? Because it's not.
Okay. What I do is I will download the video and put it on the homepage. Okay.
You don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what page you use. Yeah.